when you feel powerless is you usually explode in an unhealthy way of power, right? Yeah. You're grappling for control because you feel out of control.
I think we underestimate the power of prayer. We don't value our connection with the Holy Spirit enough that he really is our helper, that he is going to guide us. I pray all the time, Lord, I am feeling powerless. I need a creative idea. And I just ask the Lord for what I need. You know, in the same way that we may not be in the habit of asking our family for what we need, we have to be in the habit of asking the Lord for what we need.
Amber, Wendy, excited to be with both of you guys again. And we're going to talk about triggers still a little bit more. And I think with triggers, many of us know they're there. We don't understand them well, and we don't understand how to manage them well. And so I want to make sure we talk about practical ways to manage these triggers. But first, let's look at some ways that we tend to get triggered in very specific ways. Like one of them that's common is roughhousing. I know with my mom, my brother and I would just...
Is your mom a roughhouser?
Yeah. Actually, we tackled her sometimes. We'd come in and just take her down. And man, my poor mom.
Yeah, we feel her pain.
And then my brother and I would just randomly in the kitchen just go at it full throttle.
Yes. Yeah.
And my mom, she'd get nervous that somebody's going to get hurt, something's going to break.
Very stressful.
And now with my son, I do the same thing. We go full throttle.
Yeah.
He's 21.
Yes.
And in the kitchen or wherever, we just start going to town, and then we start arm wrestling right on the floor.
There was a day the other day in fairly quick succession, and neither of them saw the other do it. My two older boys came and just out of the blue just picked me up and put me over their shoulder. And I was like, oh, okay, this is what we're doing now, you know, and they put me down, and then a little while later, hi mom, whoop, and I was like, boy, I guess today's the day that we're gonna roughhouse.
You know what I'm thinking? I heard that men feel close when they're experiencing pain. So climbing a mountain, winning a war.
Or an adventure, or winning something.
Women feel close when they go to the spa together.
Nice.
So, but this, I really think this is back to the trigger conversation. Men, I'm talking about little men too.
Little ones.
You know, they're roughhousing and they feel close, and it's the opposite of comfort for us. So we feel not close, and we can be just, we can shut them down and shut them down fast and discipline when they're having just a lot of boy energy. One thing that you have always done well is giving them opportunity. That's not working in this space right now.
If you can't beat them, join them.
That's right.
That's how I had to get to that, because I have 4 boys. I have a testosterone home. And so I knew that I wasn't going to be able to really stop this, and I didn't want to, because I saw that this was so intrinsic in them. And as a girly girl, I had to be like, this is something I'm never going to understand, probably, but I can foster it. So I created a crash pile. Now,
I was going to say, I remember my first time coming to your house for dinner. She did this, and it was way out of my comfort zone.
Yeah, I mean, you have to.
So it's a crash pile. What is it?
Same fear that your mom would have, like someone's going to get hurt, and that
or something's going to break.
Or something's going to break, and that inevitably would happen. So I was like, all right, I want to create an environment where this is safe. So I designated certain pillows and comforters and blankets that were, mom approved, that you could jump on these, do with them what you're going to. And I would create in the living room, move the coffee table away. And it doesn't mean that I still don't feel some of those feelings when they're doing the approved crash pile. And they know, okay, take turns. You guys can do this, but jump on opposite sides. Here's a few healthy boundaries. And when they're older, I try not to do that for them. Because my preteens don't need me to tell them. Like they pretty much know. And if one of my boys is like, I'm uncomfortable with this, like, mom, my brother's, it's too much, then we have to have a conversation and revisit it. But I think trying not to stop it all the time and just nurturing it in the most positive way we can goes a long way. And if necessary, leave the room, mom.
But the rest of us need to have awareness. So I know with my wife, there's certain timing.
Yes.
I've seen my son sometimes get playful while she's trying to go through her list of tasks that need to be done.
Don't touch a woman when she's going through
her list. She's business. It's business time. And all of a sudden my son gets playful and he's like, oh, Dad, let's rough out. that's when I need to press pause and say, hey, let's listen first. We'll roughhouse in a moment. Because that's showing respect to mom as well, that she's wanting to be heard and listened.
Yeah.
And so let's talk about that one a little bit. When a mom doesn't feel heard, when she doesn't feel listened to, what's a good way to handle that? Because that can be a very big trigger.
That is for me.
Yeah.
And it started when they were young, and I would call everyone to the table after making a meal. And I had to, when I wasn't triggered, I mean, we keep coming back to this. Triggers are opportunities that something's off.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, they're kind of like red flags, right? And we're like,
Little
why am
signals.
I feeling this?
That flag on the plate,
Something
right?
is
Yeah.
wrong,
Yeah.
right? So yes, back to that our
Penalty.
last conversation. We needed a timeout.
New game plan.
And so just circling the kids around the table when you're not triggered, saying this has become a common experience in our family, and invite husband into it too when he's out in the garage, working on a car or wrapping up a work call, or not a work call, but like just closing up shop for the day. And I've made a nice meal, I've called, and nobody comes. It's so
And you
hard
worked so hard on
to
that.
Bless
love and
them.
feel.
It's
That
not
is
that
a
important,
trigger
yeah.
for me to feel like a
Overlooked.
victim. And then afterwards, they're all asking for something else I can give them. More time, more fun, more going. And yet I just worked the last hour and a half on a nice meal, and I had to beg you to come, and then you got up and left all the dishes, and now you want me to take you ice skating? In that moment, I could get bitter again, but I want to get better. So when I'm not triggered, I'm going to come up with, what do I need to say to communicate my feelings, my experience, and my needs?
Right.
And ask, let's come up with a better plan for our family where you can learn
Right.
this isn't going to work in relationships moving forward. And you get to practice how you're going to treat a woman with me.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
Being intentional,
Yeah,
right?
and this is for
Being
boys and it's
intentional.
for girls.
Right,
and
for both.
So I was able to say, I want to change the way that I call you to the table. I'm going to give you a 5-minute just heads up. Hey guys, I'm almost done. Or I'm going to invite you guys to do the table setting because you'll have skin
the
in
meal
the game
prep,
there,
right?
right?
Yeah.
Or the cooking or
Yeah.
the whatever. Because all I'm doing is serving, and then I have to beg you to let me serve you.
I like to ask them too, like, just outside of conflict.
Yeah.
Again, this isn't working for me. This is the situation that's going on.
Those are good resets.
It's not
Yeah,
working
that's
for me.
fantastic.
I don't feel like I have good ideas to help you get to the table on time. I'd like for you guys to come up with some ideas. Like what will be a good way for me to help you or for you to help yourself to be here? Could we talk about that?
Yeah.
And make it a conversation. Like sometimes I think as moms we think we have to have all the answers or we have to figure everything out and then, just implement it with them instead of actually inviting them into the problem and having them take some personal responsibility for it. What a beautiful gift that is. Like that's just a great lesson in and of itself to be like, how can I actually help myself to be more aware of what my mom's asking, what her needs are, and how can I be a blessing to her?
Yeah.
Right.
One of the things that I encourage parents to do is have a coffee date, husband and wife, or whatever you enjoy doing, where you both write down what are your top 3 triggers. What's setting you off? Where do you feel not valued?
Yeah.
Specifically
important.
in the
Share that.
conversation of parenting, but this is a good marriage one too. And then can we
That's called parenting,
brainstorm?
right?
Yes, marriage. Can we brainstorm together? What could tuck-ins look like
Yeah.
with these 3 little ones and bedtime routines? Because what I'm doing isn't working. Is there a way you can be more involved?
Yeah.
Is there something you see me doing? Am I coming to the tuck-in exhausted and nothing they're doing is going to be right as it is? Is there a way that they've gotten into a bad habit and I melt down when they melt down? How could this go
And when
differently?
you have those conversations, it allows you, even at other times, for you and your spouse to notice things and for you to be
creative.
receptive. Like my husband Guy came to me recently, and he noticed that I would want to talk about certain things with my kids like at bedtime, like right before bedtime. But I have a kid who's he dwells on things at night before he goes to sleep. And if I bring up that topic, it's really hard for him to decompress. He wants to, meditate on it, and then he stays awake. And so he was like, Amber, the instruction you're giving him, the topic, the thing you're wanting to talk about is great, but could you reconsider your timing? And I was like, yes, I can. I didn't realize that.
Right?
Yeah.
I didn't realize that. You're so right. Thank you.
I
will
hear my
change when I
husband
talk about
saying
these
that,
things.
yeah.
So, and it
great
wasn't
that
a
you guys are
planned
listening.
coffee time, but because we already have that sort of relationship over time from doing that kind of thing, now we're just more receptive to it for each other.
Yeah.
And that's showing up with a humble heart, right? A
That's also
teachable,
true.
humble,
Yeah.
moldable heart where you're listening to one another.
And it's
And that's so hard.
brainstorming too.
Yeah.
Hey, it's a humble, what I'm doing isn't working. But when I go and speak at MOPS groups, I always leave time at the end of it to say, hey, throw out some ideas.
Questions,
Let's
yeah.
spitball. You know?
good.
It's they keep getting out of bed. Well, here's one thing I tried.
Yep.
I remember my
Anybody
husband
else have an
saying-
idea? Right?
that's right, yeah.
So, every table gets a chance to then talk about what do you do when your kids
Yes.
keep getting out of bed? Because
really
it's
good.
mothers of
Right.
preschoolers. But the same is true with spitballing your teenager who all of a sudden is acting like he's the victim because he's failing a class, and you're actually saying, you're not going anywhere until you get all your missing assignments.
And what's
turned in."
interesting, what I've noticed is that it's not always one trigger. It's multiple triggers, and then there's a last straw
Yes.
trigger.
Oh, yeah.
And usually it's this, I'm not feeling heard trigger, the one we've been talking
That's
about.
interesting. You're right. Yeah.
There are many different ones, and usually that's a tolerable one because you're understanding everybody's busy. But that's usually the last straw. So if you're starting to feel that irritation.
You feel marginalized.
It's
You feel
powerlessness.
unheard.
There's
Yeah.
so many
You
other
feel
things.
powerless.
That's it.
Yeah,
It's
the powerlessness
the root of
with
it
it.
is powerlessness. I'm doing all these things. I'm saying all these things. It's not working. I've done everything I know to do. So now what do I do?
Well, and
Yeah.
what do
And
you do when you feel powerless is you usually explode in an unhealthy
Accelerate.
way of
Right.
power,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
You're grappling for control
Yeah.
because you feel out of control.
Right.
You're grappling
And there's
for
been
power.
multiple pushes.
Absolutely.
Along
And
the
that's
way.
one of the things
Yeah.
we talk about in our book, Triggers, Exchanging Parents' Angry Reactions for Gentle Biblical Responses, is when you feel out of control, you act out of control.
Right.
When you feel like you have
That's
no
true.
power,
Yeah.
when you feel unheard, that's when your volume goes up
Yeah.
and your muscles get tense.
And I tell people too, like, you may be out of options that you think, I'm out of options to figure out how I can really be heard or whatever the case may be. But I mean, it is a powerful thing to just stop and go to the Lord in those moments. I think we underestimate the power of prayer. We don't value our connection with the Holy Spirit enough that He really is our helper, that He is going to guide us. I pray all the time, Lord, I am feeling powerless. I need a creative idea. And I just ask the Lord for what I need. In the same way that we may not be in the habit of asking our family for what we need, we have to be in the habit of asking the Lord for what we need.
The strength.
And He's
Yeah,
faithful.
and the wisdom.
He's
Right.
faithful. Yeah.
Yeah, another trigger related to this, with the powerlessness that a mom may feel, is video gaming, right? The gaming area,
Yes.
Yeah.
where there's this this addictive type of response to
hard.
it that you're competing
Yeah.
with, and you're saying, here's some boundaries. They're very clear. You need to follow those, and then there's some sneaking and some pushing of those boundaries. What are some practical ways to handle the video gaming button? That's a pretty big one
Yeah.
for lots of moms.
And
Yeah.
I never wanted to remove it across the board. Like, I wanted my
Right.
kids to be able to participate. And so that was going to require some real intentional boundaries on my part as a mom and walking it through with them. But Wendy did a deep dive into that, especially just in relating to social media, screen time, all of the things. So you probably
Well,
have
for
some-
moms in general,
Let's
I
hear it,
wrote a
Wendy.
book called
Yeah.
40-Day Social Media Fast
Yeah.
for us. And I think the biggest surprise was how much more available moms are to their children when they set it down themselves. So this is one of those things you can model.
So it's
as
all
well.
media, all screen. all
However,
screen.
one of the biggest lessons for me with my children's screen time or the way they behave around what their right should be to a phone, what their right should be to access to all the
To the
social
console
media,
and everything.
or
Yeah.
to the gaming or whatever,
Yeah.
is one of the things that I've struggled with most is holding boundaries, because I don't like it when my kids get upset at me. And I mean, this is just me being very, very honest now.
Yeah.
Now that my
true.
children are all teenagers,
And that's not
or
uncommon.
above,
That's not uncommon. Most parents want to.
but we don't
I want you to
know
love
it.
me.
We
Yeah.
don't know it. It took many years for me to get to the point going, oh yes, that was what made it so I didn't hold that boundary. And there's a lot of, we talk about entitlement, but what it looks like with phones and games and social media is the whole world knows, except for my parent apparently, that I should have access to this on my terms as much as I want.
Yeah.
And so when they've come at you with that entitlement, that energy,
It's a demand rather than a request.
it's very
right? They're
hard
wanting,
to
they're
not
demanding
give
it.
in, because well, all we've done is loved on our kids. We just want peace in our home.
Yeah.
So holding boundaries that are best for them. It's because of love we do this. But my dad had a phrase when we didn't like his boundaries. I didn't like it when I was a kid, but now I'm like, that makes so much sense. It was tough beans.
Tough beans,
Tough
yeah.
beans.
It's like, you don't have to like it,
Yeah.
and you have to be home at 10.
Yeah, you
Yeah.
still have to.
It's okay. It's
Yeah.
not on you to like it. It's on you
Yeah.
to do it.
Not here to make you happy.
And
You don't have to want to do it.
Right,
You
and I
just
don't mean
gotta do it.
authoritarian like tough
No.
beans. I mean hey, sometimes you're not going to like it.
Yeah, you're just gonna have
You're
to.
not going to, we can have a respectful conversation, but not every time you don't like something. Sometimes it's just a tough beans. And I didn't do that well.
Well, and also setting it up as that it is a reward and a privilege
Right,
at our
it is.
house.
It's not
so
just a, you
it's not
breathe
just
so you get it.
You get to do this. So
Yeah.
setting that up again, and that's where like this kind of coaching mentality and parenting I really love, because we get to practice that ahead of time. Hey guys, here's what we're going to do. You know, these are some things around the house that we need to do first. Or this is a level of behavior that we expect. And when those things follow through, I want the lesson to be that blessings always follow obedience. When you obey the Lord, you're going to experience his blessings. We don't always experience his immediate punishment or condemnation. He's very long-suffering towards us, right? But we're missing out on the blessings of when we do obey him quickly.
Yeah.
And so that's true with video games. Like if you want the blessing of getting to have that access, then the obedience in these areas comes first. And then they know this is not just an automatic entitlement. So setting that up with whatever age and stage your kids are at and what works for your family is going to be unique. But it's just that mindset, I think, going into it is helpful.
And then being careful not to tell them they get one thing and then you model the opposite. I mean, so many of us are constantly like this, that our children's experience is, but you get blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
And well, I'm the parent can be an easy response, but really it's not good for us either.
No, and we've talked about curiosity, and it's good to have curiosity on the video gaming side on what it is that it's satisfying. That's for that young man. Usually it's a young man, right? It's boys and girls get into gaming, but more so boys are in the video
It's a
gaming world
coping
because it is
skill.
you feel power, you feel control. There's a young man that came into my counseling practice. He was a short guy, kind of small, skinny guy, and he goes, Dr. Wirtz, I feel really small in the real world, insignificant. And in the video gaming world, I'm respected.
Yeah.
Wow,
I'm
what
big.
self-awareness.
I am, he said, people respect me and I am number one in the world, right? In this area that he was playing. He was in the top, I don't know, I found out like the top 30 or something in this particular game.
Amazing.
And he said, I have full respect. People reach out to me, but not in the real world. Why would I not want to be in that world? And we were looking at the video gaming addiction, right? 8, 9, 10 hours in that world as a 17, 18-year-old. So to enter into that world with understanding, because many times I see moms coming in and dads as well, just saying, hey, we need to unplug this, it's irresponsible. Let's understand the underlying things first.
What are they hungering for?
But also figuring out, why is this such a trigger for me? And part of it is, I want the very best for my child. And to articulate that for our kids is so important. Hey, this is unsettling to me because I feel it's destructive in your life and I love you and I would die for you. and I know this is pulling you in a certain direction. So going into the deeper place rather than just the behavioral
and
place
I know
is
that
so
for my
good.
boys, a big part of it too is personal connecting with friends. And so if they're looking for connection with friends through the gaming, that's great. But I get to now also foster face-to-face connection with friends more often. And so I started just being the house where if we set an extra place at the table, or I'm quick with my yeses when it comes to, hey mom, so-and-so wants to go to the park and kick the ball around, or can I go to so-and-so's house and run around or whatever.
Healthier connection.
I'm like, yes, I try to create more of those kinds of healthy connections that are maybe off screen as well. So that's part of that, just being proactive. What's the need? And I know that for my kids, a lot of it is connecting with friends.
Yeah.
That's so
What's the
interesting.
need, and then putting some boundaries with it.
Well, and social connection, we call social media, but face-to-face crowds it out. But, if you do any research into alcohol, drug addiction, and you say, what's really the anecdote? It's connection. Connection with God, connection with self, connection with others. And then you're not self-medicating the lack of connection. And so if we're going to talk about an addiction, this one makes even more sense because we're alienated coping behind a screen, not behind a bottle, not behind an e-cigarette or whatever, but
it's a bit more socially acceptable.
Right.
Well, what's interesting relationally, what I've seen in other triggers among friends, but also among parents, is when there's texting all of a sudden, when you're together and a person pulls out a phone and starts to text and talks to you and then starts texting again. That's a big trigger for a lot of people.
Yeah, it is.
And then they disconnect and start going to the phone. I think it's really good to articulate, hey, I feel unheard or unimportant to you when that comes out.
Yeah.
To go to the deeper place rather than, hey, can you stop bringing your phone out? Just say, when that happens, I just don't feel we're connected at that moment.
Yeah.
Is there a way that I realize you want to connect with others? When we're talking, I'd appreciate it if that was
and
if it was
back
different.
to modeling too.
Right.
And asking for
modeling
what you
is
need.
Fantastic. Yes, just like you guys have said. So these are great practical tools for moms and dads to consider and think about. Thank you both for your insights, your wisdom into this. And we're all on the imperfect journey, this adventure of being
Perfecting journey,
human.
right?
Right, yeah, that's
Slowly.
right. We're all human. We're all trying our best, really, when we thinking about the best in each other. And so hang in there, moms, dads. And if you want more information on age and stage, just how to lean in at each stage of your child's development and consider their unique personalities, the unique age they're in, and really dig a little deeper into that, make sure you go to mykidsage.com, mykidsage.com, and there you'll just sign up. You'll open up an account with us. It's free, absolutely free. And then we'll send you something for each of your kids. So it's for you as you're relating to each of your kids at their birth month each year. And then you'll get weekly parenting tips at the stage you're in with all your kids. And we want to make sure those are practical, biblically based, research based, and super helpful for you on your journey, on this adventure that we've been talking about. There's a lot of imperfections, a lot of demands, and a lot of joys along the way. So hang in there, and thank you both for being with me.
Yes, thank you so much.